This is America on the Road, named Best Radio Show by the International Automotive Media Conference, and now in its 31st year on the air. Thanks for being with us as we bring you the latest automotive information from around the world. I'm Jack Nerad. With me is co-host Chris Teague. Chris, it is so good to see you again.
It's great to see you as well, Jack. We're enjoying the rest of our summer here. How are things on your side of the country?
I love summer. I get a little bit scared, I think, when we reach August, because I love summer so much, and that indicates to me it's going. So the fact that we're still in July, I feel good about that. But that's just how I feel. I don't know. Psychological screwball, I guess.
The weather is more consistent where you are than where I am, so I think it's a little bit less dramatic than it is here. But
yeah, well, we have summer almost year-round here, but I don't want to rub that in. So anyway, let's talk about the news, because there's a bunch of cool news to talk about. I mean, two prominent American electric car makers are in the midst of a dust-up in court. We'll tell you who Tesla Elon Musk is suing and what's likely to happen next. So stay with us for that. Musk is also facing renewed competition from Waymo in the Robotaxi wars. Those are developing in several cities around the country. And Waymo is taking a special jab, kind of a little poke in the eye, I think, at Tesla and Musk. So we'll tell you about that and share our thoughts on that. And there's tragedy in Chicago as an iconic vehicle is involved in a major crash. I have details on what happened there. My hometown and the Wienermobile. Man, I kind of tipped it off, didn't I? A new survey reveals that the enthusiasm for driving and for collector cars remains strong across several generations. We'll tell you more on that coming up. Do you have a favorite among these stories, Chris?
You know, I think I enjoy the upbeat collector car story. It's the only one that doesn't involve someone poking someone else or taking them to court. So,
yeah,
or crashing.
Or crashing, right. America on the Road is brought to you by drivingtoday.com, emlancy.com, the publisher of my latest book, Dance in the Dark, and Mercury Insurance. If you're looking to save money, you should switch to Mercury for your auto and home insurance. Californians save an average of $670 with Mercury. So imagine how much you could save. Get a quote today at drivingtoday.com/auto insurance. That's drivingtoday.com/auto-insurance. Well, as you longtime listeners of the show know, Chris lives at one end of the country, I live at the other, and we get together each week to talk about cars, the car industry, and we road test a car or two. And what's your road test vehicle, Chris?
I spent the week in the 2024 Chevrolet Equinox EV, and I can't wait to tell you all about it.
Well, we're going to be all EV all the time this week, because my test car is the 2024 Genesis Electrified GV70. It has electrified in the title. And I had a chance to test that vehicle on some of my favorite test roads. So we'll tell you all about that. We have a wonderful special guest. Her name is Cynthia Tenhouse. I got a chance to sit down with her recently. She is the vice president of the Lexus Guest Experience. And I sat down with her recently in Plano, Texas. We had a wide-ranging discussion about luxury vehicles, EVs, and all of that stuff. So we've got a lot of show for you this week. Stay with us, and we'll be right back right here on America on the Road. Welcome back to America on the Road with Chris Teague, Jack Nerad back with you. And we're so glad you're with us. We appreciate you joining us on America on the Road. We really do appreciate it. And if you like America on the Road, please pass it along. Let people know when and where you listen to America on the Road. If you want to pass on a podcast, you can certainly do that. And now we're on YouTube and Rumble as well, so you can see us, not just hear us. Oh, what a wonderful thing. Technology is great. Well, talking about technology, Rivian and Tesla are in a court battle that is heating up again. Rivian has been sued by Tesla. Tesla asserts that Rivian people who had formerly been Tesla people took some trade secrets with them when they crossed the line there. And it's a big, big suit. This lawsuit started in 2020, but is heated up again this week. What's your overall take on what's going on here, Chris?
Yeah, Rivian had asked the judge to dismiss the case, but the judge decided that it could move forward this week. And so they're going to have I think a hearing today to determine how this is going to look going forward. But I think the accusation is that Rivian encouraged, or at the very least didn't discourage, the employees from sharing the secrets that they had got at Tesla, which, as we know, is a pretty obvious no-no in the business world.
Yeah. I wonder how you can unlearn stuff. I mean, stuff, you've learned stuff on various jobs, and then you probably take some of that along. I mean, that learning along with you. I I think where it gets over the line is if you're taking actual information, documents, those kind of things. I think that's where it really gets to be ugly.
Yeah, proprietary tech is probably something that Tesla's eyeing, in Rivian and saying, "Oh, it's pretty similar to something we did a little while ago." So,
right. So you can see how that could happen. Well, Alphabet has invested $5 billion in its self-driving arm, Waymo. And I think kind of a slap in the face, or at least the publication about this, it came during the company's earnings call just a few days ago. But they're, I think, more concerned than ever about what Elon Musk and Tesla are doing, because they are now pushing their Robotaxi as the way forward, I guess, or one of their ways forward. Kind of interesting stuff. I mean, what I hadn't realized is how extensive Waymo already is in terms of the number of robotaxis it has on the road. It has 600 robotaxis in Phoenix, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. I mean, I live near Los Angeles. I've never seen a robotaxi here, but I guess they're out there. I don't have much call to use taxi services. But I think that the big poke in Elon Musk's eye is the fact that they're about to open Robotaxi service in Austin, Texas, which is the current home of Tesla. I'd love to hear what you've got to say about all this.
Well, I was at first a little surprised that a search engine company was dipping its toe into autonomous driving and robotaxis. And then I took a step back and looked at the insights that they're able to gather from the computing that they're doing around these vehicles. This is all playing into their AI infrastructure vision of the future here. So, that's one part of it. But again, I was just as surprised as you to learn how extensively they've operated. And I assumed that they were on a similar ground as Cruise at some point. I hadn't done much research into it until this morning. But yeah, 50,000 weekly paid trips. That's pretty significant. 2 million trips to date. So there's a lot that I didn't know about until just recently.
And they have a captive audience, right? I mean, if you're in the Robotaxi, you've got to do something, right? So maybe you're looking at a video they're playing for you or whatever. It kind of makes sense that a search engine company would pay somebody.
I don't know if I'm ready for ad-funded taxi rides yet, Jack.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and General Motors, of course, is more than dipped its toe. I mean, $850 million, pretty big investment in its Cruise Robotaxi subsidiary. That hasn't gone all that well, as we've reported. Here's this I think is a very interesting quote from the former Cruise CEO, who was essentially forced out after there was a crash and some furful over that. This is the quote from him on X. GM repeatedly finds themselves with a 5 to 10 year head start, but then fumbles the ball, shuts things down, and loses the lead. Is he bitter? I don't know.
I don't know. I do see, this seems like a big waste from GM's standpoint, like how many years and how much money you just mentioned they put into Cruise, and now to have to take so many steps back and let others fill that gap. So, hopefully they turn it around, but Waymo's looking like it might be the rising to the top.
Right. In the last quarter, General Motors reported a $458 million loss on Cruise. Yikes. That gets to be real money, I think.
Yes. The public trust around Cruise and any autonomous vehicles is pretty shaky at the moment, and for good reason. There have been some accidents and things. So it'll be interesting to see if this investment does actually propel Waymo, or if they still have so much, if they need to gain more traction before they can get consumers to actually take more rides, although it looks like they're doing pretty well so far.
Right. Well, the iconic vehicle that was involved in an accident is the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, which was involved in a wreck in Chicago. It was driving down I-294, which is the tri-state tollway. I've traveled that millions of times in my years in Chicago. And apparently the Wienermobile got into a crash with a Hyundai sedan and rolled over on its side, spilling mustard all over. No, it didn't do that. But there was all kinds of stuff going on there. The two hot doggers, quote unquote, hot doggers inside had to climb out of the passenger side door and then jump down. And then a crane had to be called in to flip the Wienermobile back upright. So I guess it'll it's repairable, but a sad story nonetheless.
Yeah, the hot dogger job is one that I used to want really big time when I was just learning how to drive. I found it sounded like such a cool job, but I think a rollover crash would take some of the polish off of that fun pretty quickly.
Yeah. I had a chance to test the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile back in my years at Motor Trend. We did a road test on it. We put a fifth wheel on it when we used to use fifth wheels to do testing. And I'm happy to say that Roadtest won me a writing award. So I feel, kind of vindicated now. And here we are many years, decades later, and Wienermobile is still in the news.
Well, here in Maine, we see the LL Bean Bootmobile much more frequently than the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, although it has been here.
Yeah, love to see it. Well, Hagerty has done a survey called the Future of Driving Survey, and it shows that, among other things, Gen Z likes collector cars and likes driving. I mean, we hear quite the contrary by a lot of folks out there. The buzz is, but Gen Z has expressed significantly greater interest in collector cars than some others, including baby boomers. Maybe the baby boomers just weren't paying attention or something, or not, because I think baby boomers typically love collector cars. But I am curious about your thoughts on that. It's kind of heartening, isn't it?
It is heartening. It's also interesting to see the vehicles that the people are really interested in, the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s vehicles, which we're now calling classics or collector cars, have become really popular with these people. And the values of some of these cars, even outside of the motorsport world, just regular cars has climbed considerably, making it difficult to buy things like, Porsche 944s and 928s and things that were very cheap a few years ago. So it is, like I said, it's interesting for me to look at the actual vehicles that they're interested in, but I'm happy to see that the youngsters are still okay, even though I'm not that much older than them at this point.
Yeah, well, you're lucky you're not that much older than them. This was a heartening thing to me. 77% of Generation Z respondents said they either loved or liked driving. Well, I certainly love driving. I think you do too. And, a lot of people say the younger generations don't care much about driving. They're just doing video games and on their phones. I think there's a lot to like viscerally about driving, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, from a physical standpoint that I don't enjoy about most driving experiences. But, to your point, I think a lot of the people that are looking at this are seeing, young urban people who don't need a car or might not be able to afford one because of their other living expenses. But, I see a lot of teenagers around here getting just as excited about getting a driver's license as I did. So, that's anecdotal and there's no data behind it, but it is heartening, as you said.
Yeah. Well, here's some more data. Half of those people who drive say they feel a sense of freedom while driving. I certainly do. I love that. I feel kind of adventurous. I love getting a full tank of gas. I feel like, wow, I can go anywhere now. I get a little charge out of that. So I think it's something pretty cool, and I'm glad others share that.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, when we come back, we will have some very cool road test vehicles, both electric. So we can't fill them up with gas, but we can fill them with electrons. And when we come back, we will be talking about the Chevrolet Equinox EV and the electrified Genesis GV70. So stay with us for that. We'll be right back. Welcome back to America on the Road with Chris Teague, Jack Nerad back with you for road test time. And we're electrified this time around, aren't we, Chris? You were driving the Chevrolet Equinox EV, or do you say Equinox?
I think I say Equinox. Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, and I was driving the Genesis Electrified GV70, but tell us all about this Chevrolet, quote-unquote, affordable Chevrolet EV.
Yeah, Jack, if you recall, and the listeners recall, we talked about this months ago. Chevrolet's promise about the Equinox EV was that it was going to be its first $30,000 electric vehicle. And then there was some shuffling, and well, maybe now it'll be $35,000. But I'm here with a little bit of bad news, in that the cheapest model you can configure on Chevrolet's website, and the model that I tested is the 2LT trim, which after options, mine came out to like $45,995. Which includes a $1,400 roundabout destination charge. But Jack, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, we'll get into the range and stuff in just a minute, which I think is probably reasonable for the price. But what do you think? We're $10,000 above where we were promised and $15,000 above where it was a few months before that.
Well, talk about taking a page from Tesla, right? I mean, maybe that's not the right page or the page that the consumer wants to hear about, but I think you have price creep on all of these things. And this technology, while in some ways kind of simple versus internal combustion engine technology, at least they know how to do that. And this is all new to them. So there's incredible amounts of R&D that goes into this, and that costs a ton of money.
Yeah, it is interesting, though. We talked about my Honda Prologue either last week or the week before, which is similar to this vehicle in a bunch of ways because it's manufactured by GM. But taking a step back, the base powertrain on this vehicle, I had the front wheel drive model. So you get an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack and one electric motor with 213 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque. If you go up to the all-wheel drive model, you stick with the 85 kilowatt hour battery, but you add an extra electric motor and you go up to 288 horsepower and 333 pounds of torque. The range on this is my favorite part about this is that it's 319 miles of range estimated for the front wheel drive model. And if you go back to all wheel drive, you take a step back just to 285, both of which are more than reasonable in today's market. I mean, these are not middling numbers. And you also have the ability to plug into a level 3 DC fast charger, and you can reach a full charge in about 40 minutes. So you definitely get quite a bit out of the powertrain of this vehicle. And I will tell you, it's not quick. Just much like our Prologue, it's a very middle of the road driving experience, but it's very smooth. It's pretty refined, and it's cohesive in that there's none of this clanking and clinging that you get from some plug-in hybrids. The braking, the regenerative braking feels smooth. The acceleration is linear. There's no surprises there at all. So I think if you're looking for a commuter electric vehicle, Jack, I would recommend this one. I did want to ask, have you driven the Equinox or Equinox EV yet?
I have not. I'm looking forward to that, but General Motors has not given me the chance to do that.
But this is a 5-seat EV. So if you're familiar, the listeners, to like a Chevrolet Blazer, or even I'm going to use a Honda Passport as an example here. This is a little bit smaller than that, probably closer to like a RAV4 in size if you're used to that sort of thing. But you get 2 rows and 5 seats. Synthetic leather upholstery is standard. You get heated front seats and a heated steering wheel, which I think is nice, although we're in the middle of summer here in Maine, so we don't really need heated seats, thankfully. But the higher trims, you can get ventilated seats. And I got to say, even in the base 2LT, which should not be the eventual base trim, I should say, there will probably be one that undercuts it. But for now, you get plenty of equipment inside for the money. The seats are comfortable. The front seats are very broad and spacious. I can move my seat into a position where I can get a nice low driving position and not crush my children's feet in the back seat. They're both in booster seats. So, Jack, I think unless you have to haul, more than 3 other people or 4 other people and maybe a large dog, this is a perfectly reasonably sized vehicle for most people, especially for a daily commuter. And I really like Chevrolet and General Motors technology. And we've talked about this until we're blue in the face, but it's got a 17.7-inch touchscreen, and you get an 11-inch digital instrument cluster. It's all in one big panel behind the steering wheel. I really like the way that it looks and the way that it's integrated with the dash. You get Google built in, which we've talked about, brings several features. You get, the Google Play Store features, Google Voice Assistant, and a bunch of others on top of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which are wired in this vehicle, not wireless, at least in the trim that I tested. You get multicolor ambient interior lighting, 6 speakers, Bluetooth navigation. So plenty of technology in here, which I think is what they're going for because people expect that from an electric vehicle. Mine also had the optional convenience package, which brought blind spot monitoring and some additional safety equipment here. But Jack, I can complain about the price. $46,000 is pretty steep for an entry-level Chevrolet SUV, but I think the range is right. You got plenty of features inside. It's comfortable. It looks nice. So I don't know. I might be swayed into paying that amount for an Equinox EV, but I wish that they'd get their act together and release the real base model that we were promised.
Yeah, I'll tell you, in terms of the competitive market, that's a pretty darn good price. But that just shows you how elevated the prices are for EVs generally. But I think there's value there. And I think they're probably hitting the right notes. I don't know that these vehicles have to be 3.5 seconds 0 to 60 type vehicles. I think range is more important. But I'm really going to be curious, Chris, as you're driving your Honda Prologue day to day, what range means to you and what it doesn't. I mean, how much range do you need? I'm going to be really curious to see what your real world experiences there. So
yeah, real quick, part of the deciding factor for us was my wife's very short commute. You know, she drives less than 5 miles round trip every day. We have a charger being installed here at home next week. So, you know, we're taking the steps to make this a usable daily vehicle. But if we had to commute, you know, an hour a day or so, I might have rethought that decision.
right. Well, I want to talk about the Genesis Electrified GV70. It's the all-wheel drive prestige version of this vehicle, and it's a nice kind of compact electrified EV, electrified crossover EV. You know, while many manufacturers build dedicated battery electric vehicles, Genesis takes a different path, or they have with this vehicle. They take conventional vehicle platforms like the G80 sedan and, of course, the GV70 crossover utility that we like a lot in gasoline form, and have electrified them, quite literally in the name. And they've done a nice job with it. All-wheel drive is via front and rear electric motors. It has 483 combined horsepower when you use the boost feature. It can go 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. And my question is, why? Like, who will buy this cares about that very much? It has this boost mode that you can, for 10 seconds, get this additional horsepower. And I'm going, well, I don't understand the value there, but just because you can do it doesn't mean you should, right? One of the things the GV70 does pretty well is handle extra weight. It weighs about 500 pounds less than the Cadillac Lyriq, which it kind of competes with, but 500 pounds more than the conventionally powered GV70. So that's a lot of weight. But it has a reasonably light battery pack, and that has its pluses and minuses too. The minus is it only has 236 miles of total range. To alleviate that as an issue, it uses a 400 to 800 volt system to take advantage of DC fast chargers, should you be able to find one that can charge at the rate that it can take, which could then charge the battery from 10% to 80% in as little as 18 minutes. I don't think you're going to run into that in your township there in Maine. It'd be probably hard to find one here in Southern California. One of the really great things about this vehicle is its, I'd say, exceptional style and luxury. This is a very good looking vehicle inside and out. The inside is very high lux, high quality materials. It looks more expensive than it costs, and it costs a ton. Heated and ventilated front seats, multi-way adjustability, all of this is standard. I like this vehicle a lot. Overall take on this quickly, Chris.
Yeah, sometimes when you adapt a gas vehicle to use an electric powertrain, you lose some interior space because of the battery and the things you got to package. But I think Genesis has done an excellent job with the vehicles that it has sort of converted into electrics. The interior feels just about as spacious and roomy as before, and they're very comfortable inside. Plus, they still get the great Genesis styling that I think a lot of other people really enjoy.
I think it looks terrific. And like I say, I think it looks like it costs more than it actually costs, but it is not inexpensive. I can tell you that. Base price around $66,000. The vehicle, as I tested it, was $72,000. That is a whole heck of a lot for a vehicle of this size, and so much more expensive than the conventionally powered version of essentially the same car with all the same features. It's got a ton of great features, a 14.5-inch display with navigation, 8-speaker stereo system, wireless charging pad, Wi-Fi hotspot, all kinds of great stuff. When you add the Prestige package, which costs $6,800, you get Napa leather upholstery, a 15-speaker Lexicon audio system, head-up display. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's a wonderful, wonderful vehicle for, I think, a narrow audience who is willing to shell out this kind of money for this small a vehicle and with only 236 miles of range. Thoughts on that?
I mean, the performance is only going to entice so many people, and the price is very, very stout. So I love it, but I also couldn't justify the cost.
Yeah. So this is a vehicle we like a lot. We wish it were maybe, 10 grand less or something, like maybe even more than that. It is very competitive in terms of a lot of safety equipment. It has tons of safety equipment. It is really well equipped. I can give it that. But I just wonder really about the value. I think if you really want an electric vehicle, this is certainly one to take a look at, and you're not going to see yourself on every corner. It has all the things you could possibly want, but and reasonable cargo space too, 28.7 cubic feet of space. So a lot to like about it, but maybe there are others that are worthy of a look too. I think it's just kind of emblematic of how expensive electric vehicles still are.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we've been talking about these allegedly future coming affordable EVs, the reality is they're still too expensive for a lot of people. And, the incentives help, lease deals help, but they're not going to attract all the potential that they could.
Yeah, I think lease deals is the way to go with this particular vehicle because it won't qualify as a purchase, I think, for the $7,500 tax credit, but for some reason it will as a lease. So go figure. Our government at work. Well, coming up is our special guest. She's Cynthia Tenhouse. She's vice president of the Lexus Guest Experience. I sat down with her recently, had a wide-ranging discussion about luxury vehicles, EVs, and how automotive customers' expectations continue to change. So I think you'll want to hear what she has to say. She's really, really bright about the automotive industry. So stay with us for that, and we'll be right back right here on America on the Road. Welcome back, everybody, to America on the Road. Jack Nerad back with you. We're at Toyota headquarters, but not talking about the Toyota brand so much, just talking about the Lexus brand with Cynthia Tenhouse, Lexus Marketing. Big honcho in Lexus Marketing.
Little honcho.
Yeah, I think you're a big honcho. Very
it's
bright.
Good to be with you.
Yeah. So glad that I'm with you. I appreciate that. I was there for the beginning of Lexus. Yes, I was editor of Motor Trend when Lexus competed in Import Car of the Year.
Wow.
Back in the first year of Lexus, 1989.
Mm-hmm.
So I go way back with this brand.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But one thing that has held just steady throughout is Lexus' treatment of the customer, or as you call them, the guest.
The guest.
Yes. So tell us about that. Tell us about the heritage, and then we can get into what's
Okay.
going on now.
Okay, well, I love that question. So
I'm glad you could find a question there.
All right. I think I found one.
Okay.
So like you said, in 1989, when Lexus was founded, we made a promise, and that promise was a Lexus covenant that still is very much alive today. And there were three things that we committed to. So the first was we would have the finest product. It would be the best vehicles ever built. The second was we would have the finest dealer network. And the third was that we would treat each customer as a guest in our home. And so from that, we now, really that has been the hallmark of the brand, going all the way back to, 1989 when we first launched. And it's really how we make all of our decisions. And it makes it very simple when we just say, what's the right thing for the guest? And it makes all the decisions easy of what's the right thing to do. So we, see it as the guest. Like if we put the guest at the center of everything that we do, then we'll win, because that is the most important thing. So that really is, I think it's a privilege to be able to have that mindset, and it's something that's defined us. And we're now in our 35th year. So
Gosh, I'm old, aren't I?
Right?
Yes,
No, you're young. You're
right.
young. So, and I would say that it's as true today as it was back in 1989. And all of our dealers, you'll see, they have the covenant displayed. They all know the covenant. We have covenant cards that people carry in their wallets, and it's kind of our manifesto, I would say.
Well, it really resonates with me because I wrote a book called The GR Factor.
Oh.
And it's about treating others exactly as you'd like to be treated, which is essentially what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way just to live your life, not only to treat customers or treat, it's just a good way to treat other people. It really works through. Can
I add something? So we talk about omotenashi. That's a Japanese principle, and obviously we're a Japanese luxury automaker. So omotenashi, it's a principle of intuitive hospitality, anticipatory hospitality, and it's really this idea of trying to anticipate your needs. So I would say it goes a little bit beyond kind of that golden rule of treating people as you want to be treated. It's actually trying to imagine not how I think I would want to be treated, but how does Jack want to be
Even
treated?
even beyond that. Yeah, even beyond that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And by anticipatory, it's just sensing what their needs will be before they even know what their needs are.
That's right.
Yeah.
If we can do that, then that is.
Then you've nailed it.
We've nailed it.
Yeah, and you continue to nail it.
We try.
And here's when I heard the presentation, and we've come from a presentation you made, one of the things that struck me immediately was, how do you do this in this online world that kind of flattens everything, right? I mean, you have a wonderful dealership experience. You launched with that. You had, Greenfield dealers at that point long ago to make all that happen, and you've made that happen. But in the online world, how do you keep that going? It's got to be extremely difficult.
It's hard. I think we've always excelled with the in-person piece, and that's always easier, right? To give a really personalized experience. So you're absolutely right that it's much harder online. I think what we see is that guests, when it comes to online and truly in dealership too, I think they want things to be easy. Like there's some basic principles, right? And I would argue that even, myself, like I want things to be easy. I want to feel like I can trust, right? The brand, the process. I want transparency, which helps create that trust. And really important, and I think this is where it gets hard, is I want what I experience online. If I start online and then I go into the dealership, I want it to be a seamless handoff.
Yeah, I don't want to carry that with me.
Yes, right. And I don't want to have to start all over when I get into the dealership. And that's in any experience I have as a consumer. If I'm online, Nordstrom's online, when I go into the store, I want it to kind of match that experience, and they know what I've already done. So we're doing a few things. One, we have Monogram for sales and service, which is online kind of digital retailing or a service where a guest can start to find inventory, work the deal. People who already own a vehicle,
which is basically dealer based, right? As opposed to Lexus.com based.
Yeah. So you can see like that it's a Monogram when you see inventory online on our Lexus.com site, and then you go onto the dealer site and you can actually go through the Monogram process. And so we're seeing from the sales side some great results that the price that they see online is 75% of the time it's the price they walk out the door with, which is, I think, that just says there's integrity in the system, and it makes it a really easy experience for them. We're also seeing that they're only spending about 24 minutes once they walk into the dealership from start to finish, and it's because they've already started online. So that's also, people don't want to be spending 10 hours, trying to buy a vehicle in a dealership. And then we offer Monogram service, where guests can schedule service online, they can pay for it, they can receive videos of the work that's been done on their car and then pay for it online. So it really kind of meets the guests wherever they are. So we can do it fully in person if you're someone that you want to come in person and do it all, or we can do it online for those guests that want to do it from the comfort of their home.
I can imagine that many of your customers still want that in-person experience. It's even though your demographic is getting younger and younger, you still have an older demographic compared to the general mass market brands, certainly. So you have to maintain that. At the same time, you're looking to make your brand younger and accomplishing that with new product. Talk about that, the two different customers you have, because you largely have two different customer groups, I think. Yeah,
and I would argue, we really almost have three groups of customers. We have the boomers, we have, kind of your Gen X, and then we have like these, Gen Z, real young buyers coming in. So it is challenging that you have to be able to balance, right? You don't want to alienate the boomers, because we built the Lexus brand on the boomers, right? They are the ones that helped create Lexus. So it's really, again, I think it goes back to Omotenashi of trying to understand, who are you, Jack, and what experience is it that you want? Do you want it to be more digital? Do you want it to be in person? But it really all starts, if you have that philosophy of really trying to see you for who you are and understand what you need, then we can pivot and we can provide either. So we invest in a lot of training for our dealerships, leadership training for sales and service. That's a really key thing, because we also believe that the dealers are our customer, they're our guest. And so I guess the other thing that we believe is that the guest experience will never exceed the team member experience. So it's a really important philosophy,
exactly.
right? If your dealership team members, if they are, engaged and happy and love what they do, they're going to provide.
And they're making a lot of money for that matter too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, and
Absolutely.
they do, and by providing good service,
That's
by
right.
providing value. That's why
right.
they make money.
Yep, by providing value. That's it.
There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's a lot right with that.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. What excites you about the business right now? I mean, it's a challenging business. It's a challenging time.
It is.
A lot going on. We have high interest rates. We have, tumult
Yeah.
everywhere. Tell us, what you're thinking about this.
There's a lot that excites me. I think it's a really unique kind of moment in time. There are so many things that have changed as we've come out of COVID. I think that accelerated the digital online experience, that customers really demanded that. So it's really exciting to move into that space. I think too, for Lexus, our product has never been better. I mean, it is, and we are seeing the response to that and seeing younger, more multicultural, diverse buyers coming in. Yeah. And that's a really exciting.
TX has been a godsend, right?
It's been a home run. So, 65% of our TX buyers are first-time Lexus buyers. And we're seeing showrooms filled with young children because we have this amazing.
Well, a lot of them are coming out of mainstream brands as opposed to luxury brands, right? And so that's their first Lexus experience.
Yeah, right? And a lot of them it's first luxury experience too. So and what we're hearing is that they love the experience. They love the experience as much, if maybe not more than the product is. I think they come in for the product and then they're surprised and delighted by the experience. So in GX. We're seeing Range Rover, people come in with trades. I mean, it's
and GX has been around for a long time, but not like this.
Not
right?
like this. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So it's a really exciting time for Lexus, and I think it's now with these new buyers. It's really, I think, that challenger kind of brand mentality that we had of how do we, deliver omotenashi to this new wave of customers and continue to evolve and challenge ourselves.
Let's talk a bit about electrification. You kind of have a toe dip in a full electric and battery electric. Just tell us your philosophy, why Lexus is going that direction.
Yeah, so we believe that, we are fully committed to electrification, to battery electric, and to carbon neutrality, right? To getting there, to reducing carbon emissions. Lexus was the Toyota, the mothership, was the pioneer of hybrid and electrification, going back to the Prius. And we have had...
My dad had a first gen Prius.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow. So we have had from, going back to the early 2000s, this, strong commitment and made statements about getting to a place of carbon neutrality. We also believe that we want to be able to offer electrification to all consumers, and we want it to be affordable and accessible. And we want to do it in a way that's right for the customer. We want to meet the customer where they are. So that's why you have not seen us, say that we are all battery electric, because we don't believe that is, we won't be able to have as big of an impact if we offer choices. So we are, very solidly in multi-pathway approach where, we believe that with plug-in hybrid and hybrid vehicles, as well as the toe in the water with battery electric, that we can have a significant impact on that carbon neutrality and reach more customers with vehicles that can make a difference.
Yeah. Well, with the RZ, I think you're taking a step that kind of takes one of the objections out of the picture, right? I mean, talk about that.
Yeah. So RZ is our first fully battery electric vehicle. And when we launched the vehicle, we considered, do we offer complimentary public charging? And that's something that's, many OEMs are offering. And we thought about it and we, thought, okay, with a luxury buyer, they don't really want to be charging their car, at a public station.
Pretty much nobody does.
No one does, exactly, luxury or non-luxury.
Yeah, right.
They like to do it from, the privacy, the convenience of their own home. So we said, what would help though with range anxiety? Knowing that we would have many first-time battery electric Lexus owners that had been waiting. We had customers that had loyal Lexus owners were waiting for Lexus to come out with the first BEV. So we came up with the idea of Lexus Reserve. And that essentially, we offer all RZ customers 30 days of a Lexus loaner vehicle. So that's over the lifetime of the vehicle. You can come in at any time.
Conventional vehicle, hybrid vehicle, yeah,
whatever you want.
Whatever
you want to take, whatever they have in their loaner fleet. So if you want to take an RX hybrid, if you want to go and take like a big, GX or a TX and load up the family, you can take any vehicle you want and you have 30 days. So you could do, 30 one-day, experiences, or you could take a vehicle for a week and go drive, cross country in it.
Right.
So we think that really helps with kind of overcoming that range anxiety of, well, what if I need a vehicle for that long trip that I do every summer? Well, we have you covered.
Right.
Yeah.
Important stuff.
Yes.
Important stuff. That's been rolled out. How many people are taking advantage of that?
So it's not as many as that's the interesting part. It's
not
not as many, and I can get you the specific numbers. It's been enough that and we know that people really enjoy it. You can do it from the convenience of the Lexus app. It's on there. You can go in and book in the days and which vehicle you want to take out from the local dealer. But it's not as many as you would think. So I think
people like their own cars.
They really do. And no one people don't like moving their stuff into another vehicle, and
Right.
I think most consumers too, they have a second vehicle, in their garage quite often. And I think maybe the range anxiety that they feared, it hasn't been, what they feared as much. So yeah.
Well, I think typically your households have multiple vehicles, right?
That's right.
So
They
there are
have
very
the
few
second.
that are single
That's
battery
right.
electric
That's right.
vehicle households. What else should our listeners know about Lexus these days? The modern Lexus, the Lexus of 2024.
Yeah, I would say, I think Lexus, our DNA of that Omotenashi, that will never change. We have evolved it, as we have, really to understand and to meet the customer where they are. I think the thing that is changing is our product lineup. I would argue is, I think in the best in the industry, and I might be a little bit biased, but we have more 3-row SUVs available now. We really have a full lineup. And I think, experiencing Lexus, it's both the experience our dealers provide and all of the lifestyle benefits through Lexus Care that we offer. So we have culinary partners, we have hotel partners, we have, if you go, to certain sports arenas, there's a Lexus lot that you get whisked away to go, park right up front.
Right.
We have a lot of benefits and amenities because we believe it's really important to be kind of a lifestyle brand. So we're really excited to be able to offer those things to our guests. And I would say, take a look at Lexus. I think we're not the Lexus that, especially for our younger customers that maybe they experienced 10 years ago if they were riding around in the backseat.
Well, and you're giving people the opportunity to do that in a lot of places, right?
We are. Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, Jack. So we are, we're doing riding drives at some high-end shopping malls, and you can actually go and get into one of the vehicles. We're at Electrify Expos. So we're really trying to find guests where they are so they don't have to come to us or come to an auto show or into a dealership necessarily. We've been doing some pop-ups. We had one at Fashion Island in Newport Beach that was hugely successful. So, I think keep your eyes open. We're out there and we'd love for you to come and test drive it. And if you stay at one of our 17 hotel properties, they all have Lexus vehicles. You can take a complimentary vehicle for the day. We have some where we actually offer off-roading adventures, and like a Lexus GX, you can really have some fun, or an LX. So
sounds like tons of fun.
It is.
I
think we need to set you up.
It sounds like a ton of fun is going on at Lexus.
Yeah.
Cynthia Tenhouse, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Yeah.
This is a pleasure.
I'm glad. And stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back.
And that was our interview with Cynthia Tenhouse of Lexus. Our thanks to her for joining us. A lot of interesting stuff I think she shared with us. And that essentially wraps up our show for this week. Before we go, I'd like to mention my newest book, Dance in the Dark, a crime thriller inspired by true crime. It's available on Amazon in both ebook and paperback form. I also would like to mention I have a new crime book that I'm preparing, and I hope to have it out by Christmas, so you might want to look for that. If you like our show, please pass it on. Listen on this radio station each week. Let your friends know where you hear America on the Road. And America on the Road is available both as a podcast and on YouTube and Rumble, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, a quick Google search for America on the Road podcast will bring us to you on all the major platforms. There you can like us, download us, leave us a review. All those things help us, and you can take us with you wherever you go.
Yeah. Check us out, see what we look like, what our latest hairstyles are, whether we're wearing a cap or not, what's going on. You can see that. And also, I think, see the vehicles and a lot of good stuff on our YouTube and Rumble versions of the show. Our thanks to our Sports Byline Network stations for carrying America on the Road. We do appreciate that. And most of all, thanks to you for listening to America on the Road. We know you have a lot of choices out there and things to listen to. The fact that you've spent the last 45 or 50 minutes with us is very dear to us, so we appreciate that. And join us again next time for another edition of America on the Road.